There's some mistake. You've made the dates wrong.
No, I assure you, these dates are quite correct.
Well, the child was born prematurely.
The child weighed 8 pounds.
I can't account for it, but I can testify that Hugo Marick never made an untoward advance to Flora in my presence.
Would you please tell us what exactly were Flora's duties?
She was a lady's maid to Mrs. Marick. She looked after her clothes, her hair.
Well, now, are we to understand that Mrs. Marick was unable to look after those things for herself?
There was no affair. Hugo Marick is not Edmund's father.
I have no further questions.
I may wish to examine Mrs. Voight's neighbor at a later time, Your Honor.
Your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to now call to the witness stand Angelique Marick.
No! You can't do this.
Mr. Marick, you are not conducting these proceedings.
You can't do this.
No more outbursts, if you please.
Your Honor, my client regrets the outburst.
Continue.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your Honor, Angelique Marick is Helga Voynicheva's daughter. She was raised at Wildwind with both Edmund Gray and Dimitri Marick. She's been married to Dimitri Marick for just under 20 years.
Your Honor, Mr. Marick insists on speaking.
All right.
Judge Goldman, my wife is in delicate health. She recently collapsed as a result of the stress brought on by the suit. She was not subpoenaed. I see no reason for her to have to go through the grilling.
I'm sorry, Dimitri, but I need to tell the facts as I see them.
Are you all right?
Yes.
Very well, then.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mrs. Marick, if you would begin by please telling us how you felt when Mr. Gray made his claim.
I was terribly confused. I've known Edmund all my life, and when he first told us and then couldn't produce the will, I wondered, but...
But you did not think he was lying?
Well, I couldn't see why he claimed to be Hugo's son when he had hated him so much.
Hey, now this is the reason your husband gives for everything that Mr. Gray is doing. Revenge, repudiation.
And greed. And that's just not Edmund, any more than Dimitri's the man that Edmund says he is. The truth is, they're very much alike.
Your Honor, Mrs. Marick is relying heavily on opinion, not facts.
In an informal hearing, opinion is sometimes relevant.
Do you have any facts in your possession that will support Mr. Gray's claim?
Well, it depends what you mean by facts, Mr. Wilson. I'm very much like Edmund. Memories come back in sharper focus. Memories of Hugo and Flora and Alfred.
Such as?
Well, such as Alfred calling Flora a slut. I mean, she wasn't. She was quiet and sweet. And Alfred's cruel abuse of Edmund, physically and emotionally. I heard him call Edmund a little bastard many times.
Mrs. Marick, did you ever inquire as to why he had such an attitude toward his son and his wife?
When I got older, I asked Hugo how Alfred could call Edmund that. And he just laughed. And it wasn't a nice laugh. And then he looked at me and he winked and he said, "It's a wise man who knows his own child." It didn't make any sense at the time, but now...
Please go on.
I have no proof. Nothing other than my gut feeling.
Which is?
That Edmund is not lying. That he and Dimitri are brothers.
Damn it, Angelique, you're playing right into their hands. You had her declared dead, but she isn't. You shut up right now. She can tell the truth whether she wants it or not. I said a word. She's not your property. Just leave her alone.
Fact-finding will not be tolerated in this court. Now, is that clear, Mr. Marick?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Mr. Marick?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Sorry, Judge.
Any more interruptions, and I'll have you both cited for contempt of court. Are you all right, Mrs. Marick? Mr. Montgomery, further questions for the witness?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Marick, I know that the events that are transpiring here today are very difficult for you.
I just want it to be over.
And so do we. Now, you testified that you have a gut feeling that Mr. Gray is your husband's brother.
Yes.
But you admit that you have no proof, no facts to support your gut feeling.
Well, nothing in writing, no blood tests or anything, but
No facts.
no.
You and Mr. Gray grew up together on the Wild Wind grounds, didn't you?
Yes, his parents and my mother were employees.
And you were wonderful childhood friends. In fact, when you got a little older, Mr. Gray fell in love with you.
When Edmund was 17, he thought he was in love with me.
But you were engaged, became engaged to your husband, Dimitri Marick.
Yes.
Now, according to testimony we've heard here today, when Mr. Gray turned 18 after his mother died, he stole $10,000 from Hugo Marick and ran away. Yet your father-in-law never reported the theft to the authorities. Why?
I told Hugo that I took the money.
But you didn't.
No.
You lied to help your friend, Edmund Gray.
Well, yes, but I knew he wouldn't have taken the money unless he had had a very good reason.
Mm-hmm. Shortly after the theft, you had a horrible riding accident, and you were gravely injured. You were in a coma for how long, Mrs. Marick?
15 years.
That's a long time. Sorry for this, but did you have any dysfunction, any mental impairment as a result of that coma?
Not that I'm aware of. I've never taken an IQ test or anything, but my neurologist assures me that I have no brain problems, and no, Mr. Wilson, I am not mentally impaired.
Thank God. But you do have a very soft heart, nonetheless.
Is sensitivity a sign of mental impairment?
No, you volunteered time at a homeless shelter run by Mr. Gray's fiancée, Brooke English, don't you?
Yes.
And you employ at Wild Wind a young resident of the shelter named Mick. Isn't that also true?
Yes, but...
And Mick reminds you so much of Edmund when he was that age. Isn't that what you told people?
Well, yes, but what does any of this have to do with ordering DNA testing on Hugo and
Thank you
Alfred
for
me?
answering my questions, Mrs. Marick. Your Honor, I suggest that this witness's testimony that Edmund Gray and her husband are brothers is strongly influenced by her wonderful, sympathetic nature. In fact, even possibly by the psychological need.
Your Honor, excuse me, I'm unaware of any credentials that opposing counsel has that would qualify him to identify Mrs. Marick's psychological needs for this court or anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Any further questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mrs. Marick. Now, am I correct in assuming that Mrs. Marick is the last witness?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct.
Mr. Wilson?
No more witnesses, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, I had to be honest.
Your Honor, a court order to exhume the bodies of two men is, to say the very least, an emotional issue. I want you to realize that my client is well aware of that fact. And he regrets the necessity of having to ask the court for this order, but with all due respect to the late Mr. Marick and the late Mr. Gresham, disturbing the sanctity of their final resting places is the only recourse my client has to do the DNA testing required so that he can prove his true identity. Your Honor, that's what is at stake here. My client, in effect, is petitioning the court to find out who he really is. And his motives are not fueled, as Mr. Marick would suggest, by jealousy and resentment for the Marick family. A scientific and conclusive end to the torment of not knowing who he is all my client is asking for. Now, we understand Mr. Marick's reluctance to accept my client's claim. But even with that in mind, Your Honor, we ask for the exhumation of Alfred Gresham and Hugo Marick as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Mr. Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. There is no proof whatsoever to support this claim. And you yourself have seen today a flagrant example of the irrational hatred that Mr. Gray bears toward my client. And having hit on the ultimate revenge, he is now using the courts as his final weapon, another weapon, in his unrelenting vendetta against the Marick family. Therefore, we urge you, Your Honor, to deny this motion for exhumation and to let Hugo Marick and Alfred Gresham continue to rest in peace.
Let me say that at this juncture, I view the level of hostility exhibited in this courtroom today as reprehensible. Were it not for the volatile emotions engendered by this motion, I would be sorely tempted to have you both charged with contempt of court.
I apologize for my outburst, Your Honor.
When I render my decision, I won't tolerate any more. Now, is that clear, Mr. Marick?
Yes, sir.
Very well, then. I'm retiring to chambers. When I've reached my decision, you'll be notified by counsel.